Look, the Orlando Magic desperately need Collin Sexton for a multitude of reasons. The Magic have one guy who can score on the whole roster. His name is Evan Fournier. But before we can really get into Sexton, we have to address the rest of the roster. Starting at point guard is Elfrid Payton. Elfrid Payton is cool and all, but he's the exact opposite of a scorer, which is what the Magic really need. He's one hell of a defender, and he's really good at distributing the ball. And fun fact, he was third in the league for triple doubles. So he's good, but he can't shoot. So that automatically makes him a backup in my mind. Just kidding, of course. I had like Tony Parker dreams for Elfrid Payton. But next we have Evan Fournier, who is their shooting guard. He's pretty good, actually. He's just pretty good at scoring. He's pretty good from three. But we asked him to do way too much due to the fact that he was our only offensive weapon. And I thought that Evan Fournier was really good when I first saw him play. I was like, wow, he could really be something for us. But now it just appears that we tried to ask him to play a role that he wasn't comfortable with playing. He's good, but I feel like he'd be better in a more Eric Gordon role where maybe he comes off the bench or he's a third or fourth scoring option, because he's good and he's really solid and on a really good team. Like, say if he was on the Jazz when they had Gordon Hayward or something, he could play that Eric Gordon role. And I could also see him having a 40, 50, 90 season soon. Maybe next season, maybe in 2 seasons, but he could have a 40, 50, 90 season because he's that efficient. And small forward Jeff Green sucks. And next we got the best small forward in NBA history, Aaron Gordon. He's an athletic freak of nature with nice passing ability for a power forward, and he's really nice at handling the rock for a power forward as well. And his shooting is weird because in today's NBA, of course, he needs shooting and spacing, but his shooting is really weird because sometimes he can hit threes in mid ranges, and there will be stretches where he's like Ryan Anderson from three, but then there are stretches where he's like basically shooting like he's Shaq from the free throw line. So I don't really know. Frank Vogel tried to run him at small forward for most of the season, and that was a bust. But when he did play power forward after the Serge Ibaka trade, he had multiple 30-point games and a few double-doubles. So I think he still has a lot of potential, but he hasn't had a full season at power forward because his first season, he was benched. Second season, it was kind of, bad coaching at the same time. He didn't really get an opportunity. And this season, Serge Ibaka was taking his minutes. So he just had to play small forward, which is a nice natural position. He's kind of terrible at it. So all right, we're just gonna kind of skip over the centers just a little bit because we kind of have an OKC Thunder situation going on with our centers, because we have Nikola Vucevic, which is a really good offensive center. He can shoot three sometimes, even though he only shot 31% from three, but that's okay. He kind of just added the 3-pointer to his game, and he's pretty good on the post as well. He's a pretty big guy, so I can, with Elfrid Payton, he paired up pretty well with Elfrid Payton for the pick and pops, pick and rolls, and all that type stuff. And he would be the Enes Kanter of that team, even though Enes came off the bench. He's a little bit better of a defender than Enes Kanter, but that's not really saying much because he's not a defender in his own right. And he's a pretty solid rebounder as well. And then next we have Bismack Biyombo, who we signed for $17 million, and he has a player option. So like, he's gonna be a burden for us for a while now. And he was pretty good on defense on the Raptors during the playoffs, but now he kind of regressed a little bit, and he's okay at defense. He's just not what we paid him $17 million for. I was against paying him $17 million to begin with. I was also against Jeff Green as well. But hey, I'm not in the front office, but we got a new front office, so hopefully they don't make any more mistakes like this. But and then on the bench, we don't really have much. We do have Terrence Ross. Terrence Ross is really athletic. That's another player we got from the Raptors for Serge Ibaka. He's really damn athletic. He can jump. He's a University of Washington alumni, so I love him. But he's a good defender as well. He can shoot, he's athletic, and he's a pretty okay defender, so he's a pretty good role player. And then also on the bench we have Mario Hezonja, who is athletic and he's supposed to be able to shoot. And coming out of the draft, when we drafted him number 6, I was like, what the fuck? But then I started looking at some of his games and highlights, and I was like the number 1 Mario Hezonja fan. And then he kind of got to the season, didn't really get a chance, and when he did get in the game, he kind of crapped the bed. So I don't really know how to feel about Mario Hezonja. Okay, so the team as a whole averaged 101 points per game, which is below NBA average. He also averaged 21.4 free throw attempts per game, which is a couple less than NBA average, and they shot a horrific 32% from 3. Like, imagine a player shooting 32% from 3. Like, he wouldn't say that they were good shooters. So yeah, the Orlando were pretty terrible shooters. And then we shot 35.9, or which is basically 36 rounding. Okay, that's the league 3-point percentage. Like, we were below average. We were 4% below average because we shot 32% and the league average was 36%. And I kind of got tongue-tied there, I'm sorry. But we averaged 7.7 steals per game, which is average. And in pace, we were terrible. We had like the worst pace in the NBA. Well, second to last pace in the NBA behind the Philadelphia 76ers, because I don't know, our coach Frank Vogel, he said he wanted to push the pace this season, but then when you look, we were second to last in pace. So yeah, I'm sorry, Frank. Look, we have no scorers, and guess who's a scorer? Collin Sexton. Collin averaged 39 points per game per 40 minutes, and his game is predicated on getting to the teeth of the defense and finishing. Now you're probably thinking, great, another guy who can't shoot. And you're kind of right, he shot 33% from 3, but that's only because he played for teams like the Stampede in the EYBL and Pebblebrook in Atlanta, where he was like basically the only offensive threat. So he had to take a lot of shots. He had to become like a volume scorer. But he was a good scorer at that too, because as you saw from the 39 points per 40. And watching a few games, you can tell Collin's a little bit more comfortable shooting the ball off the bounce rather than taking rhythm shots or set shots. Because sometimes he'll have an open 3, and then like he'll pump fake, and the defender will fly by him, and then he'll shoot it after taking a dribble or 2. When the shot was open originally, and he could have just shot it, but he just prefers to shoot off the dribble, if you catch my drift. And his shot is a little mechanical at that too. But that's like the only knock you're ever gonna hear me say about Collin Sexton is, well, it's not really a knock. He's a good shooter. So one thing that really, really pushed me over for Collin Sexton was he has that dog in him. He has that killer mentality. He has a Mamba mentality about him. He doesn't step back from the big moments. Like when you saw him play against Trevon Duval at IMG Academy, they were the underdogs in that game, and they were supposed to lose. And Trevon Duval was the quote-unquote number 1 ranked point guard in the nation. And Collin really went at him, locked him up on defense. And he put on a show for Atlanta that game. And Collin Sexton's really clutch as well, because he hit a couple game winners this season, if you bother to go look at some clips. And he never backs down from anyone. I mean, and he plays with a chip on his shoulder as well, so I can imagine him going up against Westbrook in the NBA and like going at him on defense, talking trash, all that. He talked trash to Penny Hardaway on the free throw line and told him that his son sucks. So yeah, imagine this is an NBA Hall of Famer he's talking to like that. So imagine when it's just a Russell Westbrook or a Stephen Curry or someone who he feels like he can really get under the skin of them and like just really piss them off. But that's what really won me over with him over all these other prospects. And Collin is he's a quick twitch athlete, which means he's pretty explosive. He's fast and he likes to get out and run. And he'll push the pace for us because, as I said, we were second to last in pace, and he'll push the pace because he's a quick guy. He likes to get out and transition, which leads to my next point. He's a pretty good passer, because at first he was just heralded as a score first guard. He couldn't really do anything else. But then the more we saw Collin, we saw that he really has that passing vision, and that he just had to score a little bit more for the team he was on. So Collin, he has that in him to pass. Like, as we saw in the McDonald's All-American game, he was throwing behind the back, between the legs, alleys to Michael Porter Jr. and Kevin Knox during the games and practices and all kinds of crazy things, which leads to my next point. He'll bring some excitement back to Orlando. We haven't had excitement since, 2008, 2009, when we had Dwight Howard. And before that, it was a long stretch since, basically Shaq and Penny, I want to say. So he'll bring the excitement back to the city of Orlando, because he's an entertainer, which is something that's really appealing to me. And I think he will fit really well next to Aaron Gordon, because they're both really explosive. Collin's one of those point guards that can catch an alley. Like, in one of the clips I saw of him, he threw down a reverse alley that he caught from one of his teammates. And with Aaron Gordon, imagine Aaron Gordon running the lane with Collin Sexton with the ball. Like, that is what really wants me to have Collin Sexton in Orlando. He'll bring that swagger, that shine, that luster back to the city. And they're both just very exciting to watch. And Collin Sexton, he'll bring the scoring punch that we need. He's an okay shooter, which is something we need. He'll bring the excitement back to the city, and he competes on defense, which would bolster up those steals a little bit, because we were league average and we want to be above average. So Collin could really help us with that area as well. He's only 6'2", but he has a 6'6" wingspan, which is pretty. It's not great for an NBA prospect, but it's not bad either. And then Collin's just one of those guys where you can see his drive and his work ethic, and you're like, how can we go wrong picking him? He's going to make himself good. And that's why the Orlando desperately need Collin Sexton.